Boop. Oh,
I was trying to do it for you.
Oof.
Well, yeah. We'll play the music over that. What's up, guys?
Secret spill on this episode.
Was this episode 15?
This is episode 15. Phil and Chase watch everything.
Yeah, I guess because it was 13 and 14, even though it was like a part 1 and part 2 type situation.
Yeah.
But people don't like part 1s and part 2s apparently.
That's what they say, but
that's why we have the final reckoning.
Yeah, which is still, that one just doesn't make much sense to me personally. I mean, they just did that with Wicked as well, because it's like Wicked part 1, but then they named the second one called Wicked for Good. And I'm like, I'm not saying I'm confused, but I just feel like other people might be like, what? So is this part 2 or is this something else? What is this? For Good? Is this the 4th installment? What is this? But
Wicked forever.
Wicked awesome. Episode 15. As usual, do what we never do, which is tell you spoilers for everything moving forward, most things, unless we haven't seen it, of course.
Right. So about half things.
So about half the things we're going to spoil for you today if you're new.
Actually, there's a lot of spoiling going on this episode.
Well, sorry,
because we've seen almost everything on our list together.
Oh, well, how nice.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll just start with the one you didn't watch. I watched. Now, I guess I should clarify. I did count it in my list. This is the first time, and probably since I started my movie log, that I've actually counted a limited series as a contender on my film list, just because it was literally like a documentary and there's 2 episodes. So I was like, okay, well, I sat here
like an hour long each.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
They're like 40 to 50 minutes sort of deal.
I'll count it.
Yeah, so it's like if I can sit down and watch you in a sitting, you can go on the list.
Typically, the way I judge it is if Letterboxd counted, then
if you're on Letterboxd as a movie, then damn it. But no, it was Jerry Springer Fights Camera Action is what it was called.
Oh, he fights camera?
He fights cameras for action. Stupid. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like, I guess I learned a little bit about him. I mean, I didn't know loads about Jerry Springer other than like the surface level stuff of like what the show is and like, it used to, you flip on the TV, Jerry Springer's on, and of course,
like most people have at least seen a Jerry Springer episode once in their life, or they see the clips.
But it was interesting to like, I don't know, they interviewed like the guy who made like Jerry Springer into what it was, like, because I didn't know it started out as kind of like a boring talk show and stuff, and they brought on this guy who was like, well, you want a show? Well, I'm the greatest showman, baby. Oh. And yeah, I mean, he knew it was a fucking circus. It was. Wouldn't that be something? But I mean, yeah, I mean, he knew it was a fucking circus. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And that was the whole point. He's like, nobody wants to watch boring shit. He's like, so he kind of encouraged like all this shit that went down. So like the whole first part, and that's what I thought was kind of odd about this documentary, was like, so the whole first part of the documentary was like interviewing people that like worked for the show and stuff, because obviously Jerry Springer's dead, so he was not interviewed for this.
Right.
But I didn't know, like, I don't know, Jerry Springer seemed to be a pretty level-headed dude, all things considered. It's like he knew what it was that he was doing. And what was also interesting is like, near the end of his career, like before he died and everything and the show was done, he made a lot of apologies. He was just like, I have destroyed society in some ways. Like, I've definitely attributed to the downfall of culture and society, and he fully takes ownership of his role in that, which was interesting. But like the whole first part's like, okay, here's kind of like a history of the Jerry Springer show, but then The second part starts getting into like there was like a murder that happened.
Oh shit!
There were these 3 people that were on the Jerry Springer show. Obviously, it's like pre-taped, but the day it aired, like later that day, one of the people was murdered by like the other 2 people.
Oh god damn!
Yeah, and so they like
that took a twist.
Yeah, and like, so the guy was like, the son of the woman who was murdered was interviewed, and he was like saying how nobody at the show ever took accountability for any of it and stuff. And I don't know, it definitely feels like a tricky thing, because it's like, it doesn't seem like they necessarily had anything to do with the situation. Like, it feels like one of those things, the Jerry Springer show or not, it probably could have happened. You know what I mean? Like, I still feel like this little accidental love triangle, like, like the woman who was murdered seemed like a nice lady. Like, and she even like didn't give a reaction on the show. Like, they were hoping for, like, the other person was trying to rile her up, obviously, but like, they, I don't know. They left the show, and that was like months ago. And like one of the employees that they interviewed even said, like, are we supposed to be responsible? Like, are we supposed to be keeping up with people months after they've been on our show? Like, it's like, we never do that. You know what I mean? Like, and he's got a point. I feel like, I do feel like in a sense, like, unless you felt like something went down at the show that attributed to this, or like or they left and something fell off and like they didn't do anything about it, but it was like pre-taped months prior to anything going down. And like, I get where the son is frustrated, because the Jerry Springer of it all overshadowed like his mother's death. Like, it became, he's like, every article that would come up about it, there's always Jerry Springer's name first. You know what I mean? And like, I get where that's frustrating, but I just don't know about the accountability.
Because I don't think you could hold the show accountable, and like in that sense. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, I don't know, it'd be different if like after they pre-recorded the episode, and then the murder happened, and then they continued to air the episode after the fact. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that like, it didn't even happen until after the episode aired anyways. Months later, like you said. So it's like, why would they keep tabs on something like that? Like, why, it's not like they have fucking psychological screenings on their fucking contestants to see if they're like batshit crazy or something. So it's like, I don't know, it's a slippery slope.
It is. And I mean, it could be one of those things too, where this documentary definitely withheld quite a bit of information as well, which would definitely change my opinion on some things. But overall, I mean, it's not a documentary that I'm going to run out and be like, oh, you haven't seen the Jerry Springer documentary? Like, it was just,
you haven't seen
to pass the time. It's something, it's new on Netflix, so it's like, if you want to check it out, but it's not anything crazy by any means. Nothing special, I feel like. But yeah, then I watched, I gave a rewatch to the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Okay.
I don't even remember how that came to be. I just, something inside of me was like, we're watching this. And
peaches.
That might have been it, because I was just like, just kind of looking for something to watch, that I could watch with my kid around. And that felt like the move. We hadn't watched it in a while, and I was like, yeah, I could go for a little. You know what it was?
Tell me.
It was the Sonic the Hedgehog movies.
Okay.
Yep. It was, having just watched the Sonic the Hedgehog movies last week, Super Mario Brothers was on my brain. The whole mushroom world bit that they would do and stuff, and I was like, you know what? I'd give that a rewatch.
And he hated mushrooms, so I remember.
He did, and what's funny is Mario also hates mushrooms. Same joke was made in both movies, and neither of them...
Oh, that's what I meant, was that Mario hated mushrooms. I forgot that Sonic.
Oh, yeah, no, Sonic also had, like, a great distaste for... Because I don't know if you remember in that first Sonic movie, like, his escape plan from Earth, like, the next world he was going to was, like, called, like... He just called it Mushroom World. And he's just like, ugh, I hate mushrooms. And then I just thought it was funny that Mario also hates mushrooms and goes to the. I mean, it's clearly a reference to the fucking Mushroom Kingdom and in Sonic the Hedgehog. But yeah, it's not much more to add to that conversation. I mean, it's still a fun movie.
Yeah, some people didn't like it, I guess.
No, I mean, but the thing is, it's one of those that like as I was watching it, I'm like, yeah, like. It's a kid's movie. And if I was a kid, this movie would rock my socks. I would watch this shit all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But,
I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed it because, I did play a lot of Mario games growing up and stuff like that. And so it was cool to see, like, the Mario Kart, like the Super Smash Brothers,
For sure.
like, little references that they'd make and all kinds of stuff. So.
Oh yeah, I'm always tickled whenever his like phone rings and it's like the GameCube startup screen. I was a GameCube kid, so I always enjoyed that. But yeah, I mean it's still a fun little flick. I'm excited to see like what they do with it in the future. What about you?
Let's see. Well, because you watched a documentary, I will also talk about the documentary I watched. And it was called Money Shot, the PornHub story.
Okay.
I had someone request 19 different documentaries for me to watch, and she said that she watched it, so I was curious. I was like, what is this all about? And so I watched it, and I felt like she did like the worst job of explaining what this podcast, not what this podcast, but what the documentary is about, because like I watched it, I guess expecting something different,
Yeah.
I suppose, because it kind of got down into like the history of like how Pornhub started and stuff like that, and then it really just kind of focused in on like child pornography and like sex trafficking and stuff like that, and it definitely
Hard turn.
Yeah, none of those were prefaced when when she was talking about it. So the fact that like it took this darker turn, I was
just
like,
trying to watch the history of porno.
Yeah, I just was intrigued.
There's actually a documentary that I was intrigued by recently, kind of along the same lines. They got one about the Girls Gone Wild.
Which I watched that one.
You did watch that one?
I'm pretty sure. Or yeah, I don't know. Maybe I was watching this documentary that was like a mini series of like different like scandalous situations.
Yeah,
and one of the episodes was about the dude who did the Girls Gone Wild and how he wouldn't pay anybody and how it was like all this kind of stuff, and he kind of left the country, and it's a bunch of weird shit went on with that. Good watch though.
Yeah, I didn't see. I never did get around to that one. I think I watched the Ashley Madison one though, the one that like the website, the whole thing was like, Belle didn't know what Ashley Madison was, and I was like,
I don't think I know.
Well, like growing up watching Comedy Central, I was very familiar with the commercials because like I was always like, is this legal? Because the whole thing of the website was like, life is short, have an affair. Like the whole thing was, like the whole website was basically Tinder for people to cheat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you'll still get those advertisements even if you do like visit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Websites and stuff like that is like married people, stuff like that. I was like,
It's weird, man. It's crazy. It's just such a different world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like...
because then, like, even, like, with, like, the Pornhub thing, it's, like, people would, like, report their videos, like, hey, I was underage, or I didn't, this was uploaded without my consent, but, like, the problem was, it's, like, once it's on the internet, it's very hard to get it off the internet, because even if they take it down, like, it'd get put back up somewhere else, or, like, just change little things, and then like people are like, oh well, Pornhub doesn't really care because they're making money off of it, and so like they put up like certain safeguards where like you had to be like a verified user and like stuff like that. So I mean, I don't know.
Well, like
it's a tricky situation, but it's.
I'd heard that about that porn star, ex-porn star, I should say, Mia Khalifa. I feel like kind of a big name in porn, but like she, said that she only ever did like a handful of videos ever and then like stopped doing it, but like once it's out there, and it's just like a whole beast of its own. And she wishes she's like, I wish I hadn't done it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you did.
You know,
unfortunately,
I mean, it's sometimes you can't change some of the things that you do.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was decent. I'll be talking more on different documentaries as the podcast goes on.
Because you got 18 more to
I
watch.
have 18 more to watch. And so I'm curious about some of them. But I guess I'll do a leftover.
Oh.
To get that one out of the way, which was Drive Away Dolls, which I did bring up on episode 12.
Yes.
As one of my favorite movies of last year, and I felt like it was deservingly so. I really had a fun time watching. I almost wish I would have told you I watched it, so you could have watched it.
Yeah. I definitely would have.
Because Margaret Qualley did a great job.
I'm sure she did. I wanted to watch that movie since it came out in theaters last February.
She was like this, I don't know, just like this free-spirited lesbian. And she had like this wild Texas accent. And it was just...
I've heard the
accent. It was just like... just a really fun time. Like, I enjoyed watching it from start to finish. Because I didn't really know much about it going into it. And I was like, this is a fun little comedy. Probably would say one of my favorite comedies I watched last year.
It definitely seemed like
a comedy, so it's kind of easy to say.
It seemed like a fun cast, like all the way through. Like a lot of names.
Right? Yeah, I even liked the little cameos that.
Yeah, because it was
people had
made by one of the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. Good laughs.
Heck yeah, that's definitely one I'll be checking out here soon.
And then we can talk about it more when that happens.
I've been on this like hunt now, like because I've mentioned a few times recently, it's getting a little harder to watch movies in my household.
That is, yeah. So with everything that you have
as much as I love a good 2 to 3 hour long movie, I just can't swing it as often as I used to. So I'm trying to find a shorter type of film as of late, and I did see that was a crisp hour and like 28 or something. So
something like that.
I was like, I can get down on that.
Yeah, it wasn't long. It was short and sweet, and it was just good fun all the way through.
Yeah, great.
Get a thumbs up from old Philly.
Oh, boop, just one thumbs up.
No, we'll give it 2.
Okay, you're like, sure. Fuck it, you can have both.
Sure.
Well, to segue over to another one I watched, a short and sweet one. I watched A Real Pain.
Oh, yeah, you're telling about that.
Written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg.
Who
also stars in it. Kieran Culkin just won Best Supporting Actor at the Golden Globes for it. Might win the Oscar here in a couple months.
I might have to check it out.
And I know that was like... Without like getting too deep into it, that's kind of what I told you. Was like that was like the best part of the movie was Kieran Culkin's performance. Not that it's a bad movie, it's just like I don't know. It does feel kind of shallow in some ways. Like I do feel like it's a movie trying to achieve like a deeper thing, and it just never quite gets there. Just because it is a short movie, it's very breezy. It's less than an hour and a half long. Like it just kind of flies by, and it's about these two cousins who like after their grandma passes, they haven't like seen each other in a while, but they used to be very close, and then they get together to do this like little Holocaust tour in Poland and go see like where their grandma used to live and all this stuff. And yeah, I mean it was good, but I also apparently Emma Stone was one of the producers on it. Yeah, she's produced both of Jesse Eisenberg's movies so far, so I'm
good friends, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, damn, Jesse, look at you. She didn't want to be in it or nothing. She's just like, yeah, I'll help you out. But yeah, we can get more into that once you see that. We'll see if it goes all the way at the Oscars this year.
Yeah, if it gets nominated, then I'm gonna eventually watch it for the Oscar noms.
Yeah. And then what I got after that is one we both went to see. that I'm sure we have some words on. We went and saw Wolfman.
Oh, we're jumping right into
on
it.
Friday. That's just next on my list, but
Okay. Oh shit. That's
um,
like halfway down my list.
oh boy. Well, then I'll just let you run wild after Wolfman for a little bit. But yeah, we went and saw the new Wolfman. That was last Friday, I believe, when caught it in the IMAX to Phil's insistence.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad you insisted. It was well worth. It always is. I
can either watch a movie or be a part of one, or as I like to say, experience one.
Right. Well, IMAX is believing. So you got all the catchphrases. I loved it.
Oh yeah,
I loved it. I've definitely been seeing some haters out there, and like I told you, I'm just like, did we watch the same movie? Like, I just don't know. Like, I just feel like people are bitching about like I said, I just feel like people are bitching because it wasn't what they wanted it to be, and it's like, okay, but why don't you judge it on what it is? You know, like
I mean, I guess I just don't understand what, and I kind of I think I said this earlier. It's like, and my thing to that is like, have you seen Wolfman?
Right.
Like, I mean, because I don't know, I feel like Wolfman is a very specific type of movie, and I felt like they did exactly what I would expect
with the Wolfman
to get out of a Wolfman movie. So I mean, it's exactly what I thought it was going to be, and
right.
And enjoyed what I saw.
I mean, like the first words I said to you after the movie was over is like, werewolves are tragic. You know, werewolves are tragic, vampires are sexy. Like, that's just how it is. Like, you know. And tragic this movie was. It was very emotional movie. I was like, I've been telling people that crying at Wolfman was not on my 2025 bingo card, but there I was, a fucking wreck throughout that whole movie. I just felt like the whole, like, I keep wanting to say father-son, but like the whole parent-child dynamic throughout the whole movie, like even in the opening scene, I started getting teary-eyed just when the dad is talking to the son about like how easy it is to die and how fast you can lose people and all this stuff, and
like just, even how freaked out he got when the kid ran away to go get a different shot on the deer, and he's like,
I just wanted to get the deer, like, just make his dad proud.
He's
you
like,
know?
do you want to die, or whatever it is that he said.
And it's like, and I love how the ending like mirrored the beginning of the movie, but it was like just the writing in some of these moments when they're just like just these lines of dialogue where a parent is talking to the child. I'm just like, fuck, this is good stuff. I'm just like, this is cutting deep. And definitely about the time I just was wrecked. Wasn't even that far. It was about the time they wrecked their vehicle. It was shortly after they wrecked their car and got attacked by the wolf initially, and get back to the house. You know, he has that little talk with his daughter where he's just like, it's my job to protect you, and I failed, and I'm so sorry. Like, I wouldn't be able to forgive myself if this like stuck with you. Well, it's going to, and it's just like, it's that much more tragic and like upsetting because you know the movie you bought a ticket for. Like, you know it's very early in this movie, and you know, yes, this will be sticking with your daughter for some time. She trauma out the ass.
Yeah.
And like, you know, to the other side of things, like, yes, are there some questionable moments? For sure. There's definitely like some silly shit, like like just questionable decisions, some holes in logic here and there where they like climb up on like the plastic
the greenhouse or whatever.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, that seems impractical, but okay.
And it was.
Or like the door being locked when nobody locked it in the first place, and I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Why would you lock it? Who locked it? I guess it doesn't matter.
There's nothing in that house to steal.
Right.
So.
So yeah, there's moments like that, and I saw some people say that it was just like too melodramatic, and I'm like, I mean, I guess
I would disagree.
I would also disagree. I feel like it's just as dramatic as it needed to be.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. I mean, definitely for some pros about it, I thought the transition, like, between like the cameras of like
the perspectives
of like what's going on with like the mother and daughter,
mm-hmm.
and then like seeing the dad change, and then to go to the dad's perspective and how everything looks different, and they look different through his eyes, and he can't understand.
He's
what
like
they're
losing
saying.
his humanity. He can't like understand English or
Yeah.
speak or.
So I mean, I thought those shots were really cool. The first time where he was like disoriented, like when he saw the spider, and like the camera was like shaking as he's like moving around. I thought that was a really cool shot.
Yeah. Because they kind of did that again later when he like fully transforms. They did that same like shot where they like tilt the camera, and I like that. I did. Yeah. I was like, that's a nice little touch to just like show just how off he is. Yeah.
I guess like one complaint I felt like I had, and I remember I even told you about this, and maybe it's just me, but I felt like the mom just looked too young in my eyes. I don't know, maybe that's because like I've known her from the Ozarks where she did play a younger person, so maybe I just had like that impression in my mind to where it's like, I don't know, it just felt like they could have went with someone just a little bit older. I feel like.
You. But again, we did talk about she is old enough to be a mother. And
yeah, so like I mean, not to say that she is.
She does look young. I was actually talking to somebody about this yesterday because they also mentioned like, yeah, it's got the chick from Ozarks in it. Well, I never watched Ozarks, but what I
never finished it, but I did watch the first.
Because like I forget that like that's what made her like a bit of a household name.
Yeah, that's like
as much of a household name as she is. Yeah, like that's where she's recognized from. But I've always known her from a movie that came out in like, I think it was like 2011 or maybe 2013, somewhere in there. There's a movie called We Are What We Are. We Are What We Are. Sorry, goddamn. And it's like about a family of cannibals, but it's like modern day, like. And so obviously like very taboo, like it's not like a Hannibal Lecter kind of situation where it's like, oh, this cunning cannibal is killing people. Like it's this family, and this is just like their way, and they're like trying to survive because, so I'll be honest, that is not a sustainable diet. No. Having to constantly like, kill people and then like feed off of them. But then they're like, as the movie goes, they're sick because they don't get the proper nutrients because all they fucking eat is people. So it's an interesting movie. I even think I might have a copy of it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'd be willing to check it out. So
I'd have to double check and see if I still have it, if I do have a copy.
Okay, then let's hit the library.
Yeah. Oh, it's out there.
I need to make a list of all the movies that I want to get from the library.
Just start grabbing them off the shelves.
Knock them down.
And another thing that like I can agree with people, like I get why this would bother people, but it didn't bother me. It was like some things were predictable, like the dad being the other wolf. It's like, well, of course, but who cares? Like I felt like it was a very minuscule thing.
I don't think they were like really trying to like pull the wool over your eyes with it. You know what I'm saying? Like I think everyone kind of knew that this is kind of where it was going.
Right. You use like half a second of logic would piece that together for you.
Because there's like the point in time where like when dude's a kid, his dad's on the CB radio being like, yeah, I'm going to go hunt this thing because they saw it in the woods.
Right.
And then he doesn't see his dad anymore. And so then like he gets a deceased letter because his dad's been missing for so long. It's like, I wonder what happened to him. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't like...
Because I don't even think like the movie plays that moment like it's supposed to be a shock for the audience. Like I feel like as the audience, we did know that. Like, we kind of figured. But it's more so
a shock for him.
Like, and I feel like it works in that context within the movie. He is shocked. He is like, oh, shit.
And there's literally just the one scene where it shows the tattoos, and then that was it. They didn't,
and then it moves on.
Make a whole ordeal about it.
I see people be like, oh, big twist. I'm like, as if. I was like, I just feel like, I don't know. I don't know if people are like going out on a limb to hate this movie or like if people are just completely misreading it or what the deal is. But I just thought it was excellent, man.
Yeah.
I just thought the performances were phenomenal.
I enjoyed the father-son werewolf fight a lot more than I did. and well, not in werewolves, but even in Wolfman. In like the mid 2000s with Benicio del Toro, whatever the hell his name is, and Anthony Hopkins. But that was more because of CGI and it just being like just a fantastical fight in a sense.
Well,
like,
I had a similar
werewolf
thought.
on werewolf, like fur flying and shitty graphics. I'm just like, nah.
Because we've talked about that before, and I had a similar thought as we were watching the movie that I'm like, I don't mind this. You know, like usually I feel like we did talk back in October when we were on our werewolf kick. We were like, we discussed how we don't really much care for like the werewolf versus werewolf type ending. Which, like, you know, that's not how this movie ends, but it is a component at the end of this movie. But I felt like it worked. Yeah. It made sense. Like, you know, as opposed to the other ones where it's like, oh, there's this big werewolf. Let's send another big werewolf to take care of it. Let's just fight fire with fire. At least this was like, there was an emotional reason as to why one wolf would have to fight the other. Like, it made sense. Yeah. And just like, I'll just find myself thinking about that movie and just getting emotional all over again. Just like, because it's just such a deeply fucking emotional movie of like, you know, just the way he holds on to his humanity literally to like the last possible moment. Yeah. You know, and even then it kind of shines out like here and there in those last moments of the movie. But like, and that fucking bullshit with the daughter reading his mind got me, broke me there at the end.
Definitely was pulling at my heartstrings with that one because it's like, because then it goes back to his perspective and like she breaks through for a second where like her eyes quit glowing and it's like he can see his daughter. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, damn.
That was very well done. I think, you know, Lee Wanell did an excellent job with The Invisible Man, and I feel like he did an awesome job with The Wolfman. If they announce tomorrow that he's doing like some other Universal monster movie, I don't even care if it's one I don't give a shit about. I would be more excited just because he's doing it. I'd be like,
Dracula.
I'm here for it.
You know what? I would love to see a Frankenstein movie. I would love to see him tackle that.
Good news. Lee Wanell isn't doing it, but about 4 other people are making Frankenstein movies this year.
Because besides, like, because I love werewolf movies. I think if you listen to the podcast, you know just how much that much is clear. But I also really enjoy, like, I guess it's in within the same aspect of like the werewolves being misunderstood. Like Frankenstein is misunderstood as like a monster. He's a monster that never wanted to be a monster. You know what I'm saying? Like he didn't choose to be created. Right. And turned into this abomination essentially. And so I don't know. You know, just misunderstood. Yeah. So because even when we watched that Shane Black movie, Monster Squad.
Oh yeah. You
know, Frankenstein was, you know, just a gentle giant. He just rolled with them. He was part of the crew, and he even sacrificed himself for the little girl and stuff. And it's like, fuck, man. Frankenstein. I was getting a little misty eyed watching that. I was like, damn, Frank.
Just a little side note, I did think it was amusing that we closed out 2024 seeing a vampire movie, essentially Dracula, and then the first movie we saw in 2025 was a werewolf movie, which is
I guess in theaters.
That's
Because I definitely watched a lot of movies.
Yes, we watched many movies between those two, but theater wise, that's how we started and ended the year. But I highly recommend it. I love it. I can't wait to see it again whenever I get the chance. I am curious to see like how much it holds up on that second viewing.
Yeah, I feel like it's just gonna. I don't think it's going to devalue any. I feel like it's gonna hold up. If anything, it's just gonna continue to hit hard because it's just like. Then to pick up on all even the little bit more littler things and stuff like that because. I even said that, like, I enjoyed, like, how his upbringing like carried over into like
Right.
how he was as a parent. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Like his dad being super strict and hard on him and scaring him essentially is like what he told his
Yeah.
daughter. And so then he like tried to be like the complete opposite, like a very caring, sweet, nurturing kind of father in that way, to where he never wanted to do anything to upset his daughter. So,
Which was a nice take on that, because I feel like more times than not you see it where they just grow up and they're like it was almost as if it was unavoidable becoming their parent. You know what I mean?
yeah, well, because it goes either way. Either you become your parent or you become the complete
Right.
opposite. It's
And he's got that great line. I feel like I can't remember if it was like once they get to the house or if it was earlier when they're like still in the city. But he's got that line that he says to his daughter about how like fathers just want to protect their kids, and like they don't want them to be scarred, or like they're so afraid of them being scarred that eventually like the fathers become the thing that scars them. Because
I feel like that was in like the same conversation where he was talking about feeling like he failed.
right, that's what I thought. But it all just like it just hit. I was like, damn, it's so true. I mean, I feel like hell, I would use my own father as an example. I mean, I do know that like a lot of the time when he's being so gruff and he's, the things that we like attribute to, oh, dad's this, that, the other, blah, blah, blah. It all comes from such a good place.
Yeah.
Like it
it's all out of love.
Right. And it's just, so yeah, I mean, it definitely, I related.
Sure. And I definitely think that sometimes it's hard to recognize that as a child, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like we haven't lived in the real world yet. Like all we know is the comfort of our home. So then like it's hard to understand why our dads would be so
worried
hard on stuff and so like really try to drive home those messages, because it's like I don't get it.
Right.
And it wasn't until like in adulthood where it's like, okay, I get it now. For sure. It's like,
which I feel like
I have a deeper understanding and appreciation.
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially the last lessons. Like few years of my own life, I definitely feel that. I have moments all the time where I'm like, I get it. Like all this shit you tried to tell me as a kid. Now that I'm living it, and I got a kid of my own, like all that stuff, like I get it. I got it. Yeah,
like, I had a similar conversation with my parents where it's like, hey, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, we only get the one life.
That's true.
If you make a mistake, you can't change it as much as you would like to. You know what I'm saying? Like, all we can do is try to grow and move forward as people. And no, there's no rule book on how to live life. You know what I'm saying? It's all trial and error. So it's like, the fuck are you gonna do, man? So it's just a process.
Yeah.
So.
But Wolfman. I mean. I told Belle, I'm like, it's funny because all of 2024, for quite some time, I feel like I really struggled to find like the movies I really loved. Like, I mean, hell, it wasn't until like later into March when we saw Dune 2 that I finally was like, oh, this is the movie. But like, a week or so into January, and it's like the first movie I see in theaters, I'm like, well, I know one that's going to be on the top 10 list. I already got number one on the top 10.
At least 25.
It's the only 2025 movie I've watched so far, and it's already a hell of a start.
Hell yeah.
But, yeah. Over to you, Philly.
I guess we can keep on with the parent theme a little bit, and we can go into Con Air.
Okay.
So, because I watched that for the first time, requested by several people.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of funny. After watching it, I think Belle was the first one to officially be like, "Oh, you should check it out," because she even asked if I wanted to watch it when I was over there one day. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. Now's the time to just sit down and watch a movie. And then I had someone else like. He's like, oh, if you need to watch these movies, and Con Air just so happened to be one of them. So then I watched it,
and now it's been watched.
And to go as far as to say that I needed to watch that, a little bit of a stretch. I don't know if I wouldn't say I needed to. It wasn't bad necessarily. It just wasn't great
Yeah,
either. You know,
I
it was
feel
just
that.
like a old action movie
Yeah.
with Nicolas Cage and a shit ton of one-liners.
For
I
sure.
wanted to look it up because I swear there's at least 30. Like every line that came out of someone's mouth
Put the
was
bunny
just,
in the bag.
you know,
I think
yeah,
that's what he says.
or something like that.
Something like
And
that.
then there was the guard took his picture. It's like, by the end of the day, I'm gonna get that picture back.
Yeah.
And then at one point, he grabs him and is like, "Told you," you know. So it's just like a bunch of stuff like that. Where it's just like, okay. So it was weird seeing Nicolas Cage with long hair like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely an action movie of its time.
Yeah.
For sure. But again, you know, not a bad thing, but I agree with you. Because I watched it for the first time like either early on last year or the year before that. And yeah, I mean it was decent.
Yeah, it wasn't like I wasn't like, oh, I gotta watch Con Air.
Yeah, I'd watch it again.
I wouldn't be like, oh, you haven't seen Con Air?
Right,
Well, let's
yeah.
pop it in right now.
Yeah.
But no, it was decent. There was a guy that just loved to shove his daughter.
Yeah.
We got him through prison and whatnot for a crime that he really shouldn't have went to prison for. It was more self-defense than it was like viciously murdering people. Like when someone tried to attack his wife and he fought him off and accidentally killed him and then went to prison for it. Yeah. So it's just like, damn.
Yeah.
You know, it's like just kind of a shitty situation. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it was sweet that like him and the daughter stayed in contact like the whole time. That's not something you would, I feel like, typically see. I feel like if something like that were to happen, well, I mean, I guess he was defending his wife, so it'd be kind of messed up if she just left him. But that does happen a lot of times, especially if you're gone for so long.
Yeah.
But then there's that. You want to show you, I guess, to continue the Nicolas Cage thing, I watched Longlegs.
Okay.
You want to get into that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
And that was Longlegs.
And that was Longlegs.
Enjoyed it.
I did think it was funny, like what you said about Nicolas Cage and the Michael Jackson and correlation. I was like, that is funny because like when it started playing, I was like, oh, I can definitely see it.
I must have worn my long legs today.
Then,
what happens if I do this?
So it was cool. I missed most of the devil shots in the background. I think I was so like fixated on seeing like something like small like in like the like corner of the room or something like that, to where like I wasn't looking at the full picture and seeing this essentially devil take up the whole background. You know what I'm saying? Like he was like big.
Yeah.
So it was like I was looking too close to see the full picture, because I even got on YouTube because I was like all the time I was like I'm hardly seeing them at all, and so I looked it up. I'm like, oh no shit, like because I saw it a couple times, but apparently like he pops up like 10 different times.
I definitely, like I said, that last time I watched it, I clocked quite a few of them, and I was like, oh, that is just bone chilling.
Yeah.
Because you don't really expect it. It is like one of those things that, like, when you see it, you're just like, oh my.
I feel like even to go back and watch it now, kind of knowing a little bit more where they're at, I don't think it would take away from how scary it is. It's just to be able to fully appreciate it, and knowing the story now, I feel like goes a long way. Did not see the mom being an accomplice.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you did.
Oh, from a mile
away. From a mile away.
That was
really
one. Yes, when I figured it out, I threw my guess into the ring. She calls her mom earlier in the movie. It's like the second time she talks to her mom on the phone, I think, and she like talks to her. And the mom just doesn't say anything on the phone for a while. It's just like silence, but it kind of sounds like somebody's breathing on the other end of the phone, or as if somebody's listening on another line. And in that moment, I'm like, I just couldn't help but wonder, I was like, I feel like the mom might be up to something here. So at the end, when they revealed that, I was like, okay. Well, I mean, I didn't expect him to be like living in her basement. That's some fucking crazy shit. Imagine not knowing that this dude has been living in your basement since you were a kid. Like, that is terrifying.
Yeah, and then, like, I mean, the fact that, like, she did it just to keep her daughter away from the devil, essentially. So doing the devil's bidding to save her own. But she even made a comment earlier in the movie that they brought back around where it's like, you're a girl who wasn't supposed to grow old, or whatever it is that she says.
Yeah.
Paraphrasing, but it's pretty close to that.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. And then, so I mean, I thought it was cool. It sucked that the other detective was the one that had to bite the bullet. I didn't see that one coming either. Should have, I guess. I mean, because the birthdays did line up, and they did kind of foreshadow that.
Are you going to come to my birthday party? No.
But hey,
and
maybe I just like to be surprised. I don't know.
I feel you.
Can't get them all.
I did think. I do like the first time I watched it and like not really knowing much about the movie, and then like from the jump they're like, oh, and she's psychic. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I've just spent like over a month being force fed this idea that this is the new Silence of the Lambs. I'm like, well, there ain't no psychic motherfuckers in Silence of the Lambs. And then because of the satanic, like, supernatural kind of shit that happens as the movie goes on. Like I told you when we talked about it last week, I'm like, it's just like one of those things where I'm like, female FBI agent investigates a serial killer, full stop. That's there's your Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, there's no correlation. I mean, I wouldn't say it's exactly like, but I could see why people would make the comparison.
It's a vibe for sure. There's like a tone a little bit to it, but yeah, definitely some of the like music and stuff that they use in it is super creepy too. Like, it's just one of those movies just designed to get under your skin a little bit. I do see, there's a movie coming out in a couple of weeks I want to see called The Monkey, and it's directed by the same dude that did Longlegs. I just can't help but feel like he wanted to do this because like it seems like so much more fun than Longlegs. Like, I feel like he did this dark movie and he's like, this will be dark and it'll be bloody and all that shit, but let's have a little more fun this time.
Yeah. We don't have to be all super serious about it.
Yeah. I even feel like on some of the posters, like the tagline is something like "Everyone dies and that fucking sucks" or something of that nature. Because it's based on a Stephen King short story. And I've only seen like one little like trailer for it, but I've decided I'm done with the marketing for it. I will go see the movie. I've seen at least one other of his movies called The Black Coat's Daughter. It had Emma Roberts in it. And,
I didn't watch that one either.
It was decent. You can definitely see his fingerprints all over it. But one you watched that I did not was Gretel and Hansel. Yeah. So I did start it like, I don't know, a few months ago.
Was not very good.
Yeah.
But also not like a huge Hansel and Gretel fan. So I just thought it was even a little bit more. It just got really weird there towards the end. I was like, no, I don't fucking know about all this.
But so you enjoyed it?
I did enjoy it. I did like it.
Good deal.
Do you want me to keep going?
It's
one you would like to talk about. It's the one next on my list.
Then by all means.
You got a little Phase 4 action.
Oh, shit.
So I know you wanted me to watch it so we could
I did.
Talk about it.
Finally,
more.
2 people on the face of the planet have now seen Phase 4. This is fantastic.
Ugh. We watched that. We try to watch everything, and we were able to squeeze this one in.
We're on a roll.
Doing a great job so far.
Pat ourselves on the back.
There we go. We pat ourselves on the back if we didn't pick up on audio. But no, it was like I said, it was decent. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I feel like really would push it a little too far. But I did enjoy it, and I definitely could understand like the correlation between like that and Arrival.
Yeah.
You made that comparison when we talked about it. I think last episode.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was cool to see like I don't know, it's cool to see like sometimes like when people are just so like single minded on like an objective. You know what I'm saying? Like the scientist just wanted to figure out a way to destroy these ants.
Yeah.
He didn't really care too much about trying to communicate with them, or he's like, I'm gonna kill these ants, and then he's like, I'm gonna kill the queen ant.
Yeah.
And because like towards the end of the movie, he can't even put his boots on. He's like, and the other guy's like, you're gonna go kill these ants? He's like, you can't even put your boots on. Like, what are you gonna do? And it was because it was fucked up because like it wasn't his fault because they went and told the family to get the hell out of there. Like, yeah, well we line all this water with gas so in case something happens, we'll just set the gas on fire. I'm like, I don't know if that's really gonna stop what you're hoping for. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna do what you want, and sure enough, it didn't. No. Why the ants attacked him in the first place, I don't know. Seemed just kind of malicious for no fucking reason, but
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, like that's the thing.
Like
that
they weren't doing anything to disturb the ants' nature, so like why just kill them?
Well, my thing was like based on the ending, like I told you, like I'm not gonna sit here and act like I fully understand it myself, but I do know that there was like a line of dialogue in there where like the whatever the fuck the linguist, I guess. Yeah. And then the chick from the farm.
Yeah, because she did live, and then.
Yeah, they both
found her way at the base camp.
Yeah, they both live to the end, and like the two of them are essentially, I believe he says they're like assimilated by the ants to like. Basically assimilated for this like new world order, essentially. That it's like now the ants run this bitch now, like, and the humans are just, whatever. What their purpose for the humans are, like none of that. I have no fucking idea. But
because it doesn't explain.
Yeah. Well, nobody would let this motherfucker communicate with the ants, so we never got many answers.
The only thing they ever said to him was that you are free.
Yeah.
And then hold him captive. So
you are free to stay right here.
Hey, we brought you this chick you like, though. So
but hey, don't say we never did nothing for you.
Yeah, but because that was crazy too. Because I think like what I was getting at was like, dude's like, okay, well you need to tell the people that this chick's here, and you need to get a helicopter here, and these people died, and like this is starting to become something a lot more serious. He's like, but the research. He's like, we can't stop now. And then they call it like, how is everything? He's like, we saw that like some house like got destroyed, and he's like, is there anyone there? He's like, nope, click.
Not no more.
He's like, no, nothing like that. And so
yeah.
I don't know.
Definitely that second viewing, I was really just like, God, this guy's a dick.
Yeah, through and through. Just through and through.
Very, very just like...
He got his comeuppance.
Tunnel vision.
Yeah, that single-minded thought
and even like just from the jump, I feel like he just he started at provoking.
Yeah.
Like, he's that was his starting point. Like he just starts shooting the fucking like...
the pillars down. Just to get a reaction from the ants.
Just shooting grenades at him. Fucking. Yeah. Later on, he's like, "Where are the grenades?" It's like, my man, you fucking shot them all off. Like,
yeah. And he's like, "Oh, I think I might have underestimated how smart these ants are. I think they're beating the shit out of us right now."
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So I mean,
that guy was playing checkers. These ants are playing chess.
Yeah.
Times 1,000.
So they're playing like the 3 boarded chess.
I'm saying.
And he's on the 1 checkers game. But, I mean, I did enjoy it. Like I said, the ending kind of threw me off a little bit. I even had to rewind at one point. It was like, did I fucking miss something
Yeah.
here? I'm like, what? Because it showed them like and like down there, and then it's just like cut to credits. I'm like, hold the fuck up. I'm like, did I miss something? So like, I even went back to where the scientist dude died, fell in the hole, and then all the ants swarmed him, and the linguist was just smacking the dirt. He's like, "You bastards!
You killed him, you bastard!"
But so then and then like because then the one chick falls in, and they don't see her again, and then she just rises from the dirt, and then they're like, "We're here," and then. Directed by and so
I do feel like when the other scientist dude goes down there, there's like I don't know, it just gets like a little trippy there at the end, and then like you said, they just kind of emerge, and then they're like, boop, 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 phase 4, and then it was over, and I was like, oh, okay, well.
So I mean, it was. I mean, I enjoyed it, but
Like I said last episode, like the word I would use to describe this movie is fascinating. To me, like I'm just like. I definitely find this concept far more intriguing and even a little terrifying as opposed to the giant ants and them. You know?
Well, yeah, because that's just
like a monster movie. That's just like a fun little B monster movie.
A whole different type of movie.
Yeah, this was like, we want you to think about some things. Like how fucked would it be if all the ants got smart?
Yeah, not kaiju
Answer,
ants.
super fucked.
Yeah, because there's so goddamn many of them.
Yes.
And smart little buggers shut off the AC so their equipment wouldn't work properly.
Right, and it built the little reflector things just to cook them out.
And
basically.
then they had to crank up the sound barriers to break through. I mean, there was definitely some cool shit that that happened, and like the story flowed pretty well for the most part. And just like towards the end, it kind of just like hey, we wrapped it up and now it's done. That's like okay.
Not many movies where humans and ants are fighting, but of the few, this is definitely my favorite. Phase 4. Anything else on phase 4?
No, I think
phase 4.
That's it for me.
I enjoyed it. I watched a Shudder original called Destroy All Neighbors.
Okay.
I kept seeing like the DVD at like Walmart and stuff and here and there, and it always looked like something that was right up my alley. Like just from the cover alone, I'm like, this looks wacky. And it's definitely like just a fun, campy horror comedy. The guy from Bill and Ted that's not Keanu Reeves, I can't remember who plays who right now, but he was in Bill and Ted. He was in The Lost Boys. He plays like the neighbor, but he's like in heavy prosthetics in this movie. He plays a guy named Vlad, just Vlad.
Nice.
But it's all about this dude who like he's trying to make a like his magnum opus of like a prog rock album.
Okay.
And is like very into it, like, oh, people don't get prog rock, like it's, and if people do, then you're a sellout and all that kind of mindset. And so like he's trying to like make this album, and it's always like he's got some excuse, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so then this neighbor moves in next door, and it's Vlad, and he just seems like a scary dude. And this guy who's making the album, he's not like the manliest man on earth, Right. Like, he's definitely like very skittish, like very like trying to get other people to like take care of the situation. Like his girlfriend's always just like, if it's bothering you so much, why don't you go next door and say something? He's like, I can't just say something. And it's funny because of the way it escalates. She just recommends going over and asking him to turn the music down. And he's like, maybe I'll just pound on the wall. And she's like, what? she's like a little archaic, don't you think? And he's like, what? And so he does finally decide he's going to pound on the wall. Like that's how he's going to go and pound on his own wall, like on the other side. His neighbor's just like,
how close are the neighbors?
They're in an apartment building.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay. I was expecting houses.
Yeah. No,
they're. I was like, what's pounding on his wall?
No. Yeah. They're in an apartment building, and like, so yeah, he's in the apartment next door. So he goes to pound on the wall instead of like a do. He does like. Like one little like wimpy little pound, and then he like backs away from the wall, and you just hear the music just like cut off like next door, and then you just hear the dude because he's just like making so much noise next door. You're just hearing like, oh, just like in this like loud EDM music, and it all just comes to a stop. And when he does that wimpy little pound, and he then you just hear him like walking to the front door, and then he like goes to like look out the people and do like hawks a loogie and do. He's like, oh my god. But yes, one thing leads to another. And he goes over to like confront dude like another time, and an accident happens, and Vlad dies like a motherfucker.
Damn.
He accidentally like he keeps like I don't know. He's like just keeps like pumping up like other dude. He's like, this is what I'm talking about, bro. Like you came over here, you're being a man now, big man. Yeah. He's like, hit me, push me. No, do it a little harder, because shit like that. And then like something happens where like his little weight system falls in a weird way, and then he slips on something, impales himself, and then he's like, no, I'm all good, bro, don't worry about it. And so he's trying to like get up, and he's like pulling this like chain, and he's just like the other weight is just like being lifted, and the guy's like, no, and it just fucking decapitates him.
Oh,
and,
so almost kind of like almost like a Final Destination type of
I guess, sort of.
well, the one dude gets
knocks his head off like a fucking...
in the Final Destination.
Yeah. It knocks his block off, essentially. He's just like, blah,
Right.
so from that point forward, like, dude tries to, like, cut up the body to try to hide it, but, like, it's never really made super clear, because, like, sometimes other people can see it, but mostly it's just him who can see, like, he's still the neighbor's still talking to him, and he's like, you can't kill me, Willie, and like, and but as the movie goes, he keeps accidentally killing people like throughout the whole movie.
Gotcha.
And it's just a goofy, fun time. I mean, it was a fun movie.
Don't have Shudder, so
well, I just got the DVD from the library. Shudder is very good at releasing physical media, so
library card was the move to make. Then.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then
local library kids.
Yes,
always the move.
For books, movies, and other forms of entertainment,
and all sorts of media.
CDs,
vinyls at some libraries. Oh. Yeah, video games at some libraries.
Yeah, the one at the Champaign Library has video games.
You can get it all
for a very brief rental. But if there's a quick one you want to knock out, you can get it from.
If you're a gamer like that,
more power to you.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, it was just definitely like a. I feel like at this point, when I tell people it's very Chase and Shep-esque, they get it. It's like, it's very, just like B movie, crazy effects and comedy and horror and gags and shit like that.
Right.
And,
almost like a little Tucker and Dale versus Evil a little bit.
Sort of, yeah.
Just like it's with the accidental deaths more than is the correlation.
I guess like, how Onyx the Fortuitous was, like with some of their special effects, like, that they're clearly using like puppets and like that kind of thing. It's of that nature. But yeah, then I watched this morning. I watched A Different Man.
That was
Sebastian Stan, yes, who also just won a Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Drama for this movie.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I don't see him winning the Oscar, but I don't see any reason why he shouldn't get nominated, because he definitely did a phenomenal job throughout the whole thing. Because, he plays this guy named Edward who has like a disfigured face. Again, I forget what the condition is, but like tumors are growing on his face, and so it looks a certain type of way. And obviously Edward is like, he's very like insecure and like quiet, and like there's even a scene later where like he's kind of in its own meta way like explaining how he feels like in the world of like, he feels like he's got to be nice to everybody, and he's got to like, he just tries to keep eyes off of him sort of thing as much as possible.
Try to fly under the radar.
Yeah. And so this girl moves in next door, and he, gets a thing for her and whatnot. But while this is happening, his doctor recommends him for this like experimental procedure that they're working on that could potentially like fix him up. So he does the procedure, and then like essentially his this is a weird way to put it, but his face falls off. Essentially, like just the clumps of his face start falling, all the tumors and everything fall away until he's Sebastian Stan. And what they give him, because they even like he cuts his finger before he has this done, and his finger is just like healed, and that's like the first sign of like this medicine doing its work.
Okay.
And so like the medicine has healed him, you know?
Yeah.
And so my thing is I was just frustrated by a decision that is made in this movie that like going forward, I just felt like it never needed to be made. I get it. Like I get that it's like what the title is implied by and all that stuff, because he lies. And that was my fucking problem. I just felt like at no point did Sebastian Stan's character have to lie, but like the doctor came to his house after like this happens to like check in on him and just like, hey, haven't heard from Edward in like a week. Obviously doesn't recognize him as they're like talking. And instead of just being like, hey, yo, it's me, Doc, Edward. It worked. Instead, he goes, oh, Edward? Yeah, nah, he died. He committed suicide. I'm a cousin, and I'm just here to like...
That's a choice.
And that's what I'm saying. And it happened, and I was like, I didn't like it, but I rolled with it. I was like, okay, all right, we'll see how that kind of pans out for the rest of the movie, because the girl overhears him talking to the doctor,
right?
And so
I thought you were Edward.
So she didn't know either, like, because nobody's seen him since he like fully like got better.
Gotcha.
And so he just lies. He just lies, and then she hears it, and then he like moves out. There's like a bit of a time jump, and he just decides to start living as like a different man. He's, you know, and there's a line later on, because the chick, she's a playwright, and she ends up writing a play called Edward, and it's about his life essentially, and like the time that they met and all that stuff. And so he's like trying to play the role and all that stuff, but then this other guy comes around who the actor really does have that condition in real life, and he sees that like nobody has a problem with this guy. And it's because he's got charisma out the ass, and he's just very confident.
Right.
And like he wasn't living his life like Edward was living his life, you know? And after a while, he feels as though his life is being taken over by this other guy, even though it's not like a direct thing. It's not like a malicious, like, oh, I'm taking over your life. Like, it's just happening. Right. And he doesn't really know what to do with the whole thing. It was intriguing. I definitely feel like I understood like the movie. I feel like we've been saying this a lot the last few episodes of like, I get it. Right. Like I get what the message was. I get what you're trying to do. I just feel like I think this was the one I said earlier. Like they didn't throw the idea, they lobbed it. You know, and it just kind of, you know. And especially the ending, it just was one of those endings where it's like, oh, okay, and now it's over. And if you end up watching this, there is a moment at the end that I do want to talk about, because I was just like, wait, what? Was that a fuck up on somebody's part, or did somebody find something out in a scene that was not in this movie? Because I was really thrown off.
Like, I guess, like, even just, like, based off of what you just said, like, the weirdest part about it for me is, like, lying to the doctor saying dude killed himself. It's like, if it's an experimental treatment and it worked, I think the doctor would want to know that, like, hey, this is working. like look, you look great, you know what I'm saying? That's my thing. Like, that's turn into Sebastian Stan. This is awesome.
And life was going really good for him too after he turned into Sebastian Stan. Shit was going well.
I don't know, like why.
But it didn't change him. You know what I mean? Like he was still insecure and jumpy and like all these things that he's still,
because that's the life he was used to living. So.
Which is like, you know, again to the point of like I get it. You know what I mean? Like I get what they were trying to do.
You have this man who's confident in his own skin, even with his deformity, and then people can appreciate that more than someone who's hiding behind a mask, essentially.
Which definitely is a movie that like does like rely on like the mask kind of theme in it, and like the message is good, you know, like the just the way that like we as people tend to treat people with deformities, and it's like they're still people. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason we should treat people this way. Like, it's pretty fucked up. And it definitely has a message of, like, acceptance, which is nice. And, like, the movie has a lot of great parts to it. But, like, as a whole, I just feel like it didn't click for me, personally. Because, I don't know, I guess this doesn't really spoil anything. But, like, the thing at the end that happens is, like, there's like a massive time jump and some crazy shit happens at the end, just kind of out of nowhere for a little bit. And it was just like, I don't know, it just felt like the oddest way to end this movie. But at no point did he ever truly tell anybody, I'm not Guy, I'm Edward. Like, you know, like he does one time in like a fit that he's throwing, but nobody believes him because they think he's just like, oh, I'm Edward, like the character in the play. This is my part. I was born to play this. It's like, but nobody actually like realizes, like, no, he is Edward. Like, so like, because they keep calling him Guy for like the majority of the ending, but then like literally the last scene of this movie, like they're all having dinner and the other guy calls him Edward, just kind of in passing, very casual. I was like, was that an accident or was that on purpose? Like, do they know that he's Edward or? I don't understand what the fuck just happened.
Was that there or did you add that? What was that?
Yeah, definitely had an ending. That's for sure. Hell yeah.
Is it on me? That's a different man?
That is a different man.
Alrighty. So one that I watched was Fall.
Oh boy.
And I'd say overall was not one of my favorites. I didn't like it for so many reasons. I feel like so we'll just start at the beginning, and so they're climbing this mountain, and the significant other dies pretty early on, falls to the death, and then now the wife is traumatized.
Yeah.
And so now we jump forward a year, and she's at a bar, and she's leaving drunk, and her dad shows up, who's the actor from The Walking Dead.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
He plays her dad.
Makes sense, because I said I don't remember him being in this movie.
Very few parts. Yeah. Mainly in the beginning, and then he shows up towards the end.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yep. Oh, well, JD. And then, so he's like, you shouldn't. He's like, you're not going to drive. He's like, I'm not going to let you. And she's like, fuck you, Dad. And so somehow she gets home. I don't exactly remember how. I think he gives her a ride. And then her friend shows up. The one that was there the day that her husband died. And I was like, hey, it's been a year. Well, I think she was going to kill herself. Because she took like a bunch of pills and was drinking. And it was like, I don't know, something. I remember she just took a significant amount. And then like her friend showed up the next day and was like, hey, there's this really big abandoned cell tower. And we're going to go climb it. And so she was like, no. And then it's like, well, if you do, we can go spread your husband's ashes on it. Like, you need to live. You can't just sit here and just be wallowing in your grief. And she's like, okay. And so then, like, a problem that I had with it, it's like, that's something that you have to train for. Like, you don't not do anything for a whole year and then climb thousands of feet in the air. Like, it just doesn't happen. So That was my first big,
They're climbers. This is what they do. But I get what you're
yeah,
saying.
you know what I'm saying?
Talk about Rusty.
Yeah, well, and a bunch of fucking rust.
Speaking of
rust,
rust,
one of the rustiest towers I've ever seen in my life, and it's like, I don't know. So they climb up there, and then like the whole time you just see the whole thing just kind of falling apart. Like, you know, we're obviously where we're gonna leave. We get to fall somehow.
Yes.
So so they get up there, and then they're just chilling, just talking, and then they're like, "We're gonna die up here." And so it's at one point like they see these people in like a fucking like
right, because like the ladder falls off or whatever. How they got up originally was no longer an option.
Yeah. So now they are stuck up there for context.
Yes.
So it does.
They didn't just get to the top and go, well, fuck.
Yeah. Well.
Now what? We jump?
Yeah. And so the ladder breaks, and so then they're stuck up there, and so. At one point, they see these people in like an RV, and so like they wait till nighttime because they have a flare, and so they shoot the flare. They have the binoculars. They see the people see them. They're like waving their cell phone, like, "Hey, we're up here," and the people steal our car and just drive away. Like, goddamn, like I don't care how sketchy of a person you are. I feel like if you were to see someone stuck, even if you stole the car. You could at least call at least call the fucking authorities and be like, "Hey, there's these people stuck up on this cell tower." You know what I'm saying? So it's not like they could identify them. They're fucking so far up in there. But that was like, okay, whatever. And then at one point, they dropped their bag, and she's like, "I'm gonna climb down there and get it." Mm-hmm. I was like, okay. And so she did. And so she's climbing back up, and at one point she slips. And it doesn't really show it. She just falls.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, she fucking died. And so she was like, oh, I grabbed onto the bag. And so then the chick pulls her up there. I'm like, also seems unrealistic that you're going to pull this chick up like 30 feet with just your arm strength after not eating anything for 2 days. And so, you know, and then they're still up there. And then there's like the whole thing where like the best friend was also sleeping with her husband. Because for whatever. Because he wouldn't say I love you, but he would do like this Morse code thing. And it was like 143 was supposed to represent I love you.
Yeah.
And so then she had it tattooed on her ankle.
Why is that people's go-to to like spice it? It was like the rental last week, you know? It's like people's go-to is like, as if there's not enough going with the premise we have. Let's have somebody like have an affair with somebody else.
Yeah, and then like not only that, like, but you're going to get it permanently tattooed on you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and her friend never knew about it. Like, she never saw her ankle. You know what I'm saying? So there was just, I was like, convenient.
Yeah.
And then, they tried to throw the phone down in the shoe, and then that didn't work. And she was like, give me your other shoe. And that's when they wanted to reveal that their friend was dead the whole time when she slept, and I thought she was dead the first time. She's like, I never did grab the bag. I just bled out. And then it shows her just dead. And so then the friend, at one point also cut the shell on her leg.
Yeah.
And so she's like dying, and like these vultures are like picking at her and stuff. And she's like, I need to live. And so she gets down there and she's like, sorry about this. And then shoves her phone into the dead person's body and just like kicks it off the tower.
Yeah.
To get service down below. And And then her dad comes, and the paramedics are all there and stuff, and she lives. I'm like, but on in the Phillies rendition, the end credit scene is her dead from tendinitis, from the fucking all the rust that she cut herself on fucking a week later. But so I was just like, man, the movie was exactly what I thought it was, and I just wasn't a fan.
I forget what we were talking about recently on one of the recent episodes, because I brought up the movie 47 Meters Down with Mandy Moore, and I said that like at a certain point in that movie I said fuck this movie, and then moving forward everything just seemed ridiculous, and then big reveal twist, Well, when I saw Fall, which for some reason has a lot of fans, but it's, people really seem to love Fall.
I don't know why.
For whatever fucking reason, it's beyond me. But
big Regina Gardner fan, I suppose.
I guess so. Fucking but yeah, like when that happened at the end, like as soon as like they did the little fake out with the friend's death, I saw where this was going. Yeah. And then like once they revealed it at the end, I was like, yeah, I've seen this done better in another movie. Like the same exact twist, same exact way they played it out and everything. All it's missing is Mandy Moore just cackling like a crazy person at the end. Like it's just like, yeah, none of it's real. And it's just like unfortunately, whereas in 47 Meters Down it helped me to enjoy the movie more, was not the case with Fall.
Anything, it just like rubbed salt in my tetanus
infested wound. That's funny.
So that was Fall, and then I have 3 more before the one we just saw tonight.
Okay.
So
go ahead and do a couple more then.
Then we'll just go. Well, since we're talking about bad twists, we're just gonna go The House of the Devil.
Okay.
And so I watched it per request by someone I work with, and so he lent it to me. And you know, I enjoyed Ty West's movies of like the X and that's really the only Ty West movies I saw up until this point.
The Sacrament.
Well, and The Sacrament was another good one too. So I've enjoyed all of his movies except for this one, and again just a lot of like just little spotty plot holes. So like, and it said it was like based on an unbelievably true story, or some shit like that. Yeah. I was like, how much? So I was like, was the true story that this babysitter went to go babysit a satanic family? Like, I think that was like the only part of the story that could have possibly been true. So like, I don't know. So she just rents this house and she doesn't have a lot of money because she's in college. Mm-hmm. She sees like the flyer up for babysitter. And that's all it says. It says babysitter with like $$ for the S. And so she's like, pulls the number, calls. Dude's like, yeah, well, just meet me here. She goes, waits for him, doesn't show up. Calls later and is like, hey, this is urgent. Can you go and do this for me? Her roommate goes with her. And they're like, yeah, well, the dude's like, hey, yeah, actually, there's no kid. He was like, I need you to watch like my mother or something like that. And dude already looks old, so it's like, how old is your fucking mom then? Yeah. And so she's like, oh, I don't think I'm the right person for this job. And he's like, no, I'll pay you like $400 tonight just to do it. And now I've been throwing pizza money. And she's like, oh, well, okay. So then her friend was like, what the fuck? She's like, if this was weird, you weren't gonna do this. This is fucking weird. She's like, yeah, but it's $400 for like 4 hours, and pizza. She's like, but and they paying for the pizza, and so her friend,
college as well.
Her friend was just like, well, for one, I don't know why her friend didn't just stay necessarily, but. Because he's like, I don't have enough money to pay for the both of them. I was like, don't pay my friend. Like, she's just going to stay here with me. Like, she's like, oh, no, she's going to leave. So she leaves. And then for whatever reason, she pulls over to light a cigarette, which I've smoked in a car for almost a decade. Never once said I had to pull over to light a cigarette. You just do that while you're driving. And so she pulls over and this dude just shows up out of nowhere. He's like, oh, she's like, what the hell? You about to give me a heart attack? He's like, oh, I'm just offering a cigarette or a lighter. She's like, okay. And then he's like, oh, are you not the babysitter? She's like, no, I'm her friend. Boom, shoots her right in the head, right then and there. I was like, okay. Cuts to the babysitter, and nothing happens for the next 45 minutes. Like, she's just in the house. Like, at one point, she goes upstairs, and you can see the pentagram and, like, dead bodies.
Yeah.
and but never acknowledged it. Never just like shut the door and just kept on perusing the house.
Kept on keeping on.
And then at one point, the pizza guy shows up, and it's the same dude that just killed her friend. So I was like, huh, coincidence. And so then at one point she gets all freaked out, calls 911.
The Satanists are getting free pizza.
They call back and they're like, is everything okay? She's like, yeah, I didn't mean to call. And then it's like, okay, well, this is for emergencies only. She's like, yeah, I know. Hangs up. And then all of a sudden, I think the dude like poisoned the pizza because she just like passes out at one point.
Yeah.
And so then she wakes up and she's like tied down in this whole little pentagram. And they do like this weird ritual where they like pour a bunch of blood into her mouth, and she eventually escapes and kills like the mom, like their son, and they had like this like deformed looking daughter, I guess. I didn't ever really explain who the fuck she was, but she was there. And because they kept on showing flashes of her, I'm like, interesting. Don't need to see this. And then so she leaves, and then she's getting chased into the cemetery, and the dad's there, and he's like, oh, because the whole thing was like there was like a lunar eclipse, and it was supposed to be like a big deal. So I'm assuming that was the correlation with why the satanic cult was doing what they were doing. And she has a gun, and so instead of just shooting dude, she's like, oh, I'm going to just shoot myself in the head, and just like shoots herself right then and there. And then if the movie would have ended there, I probably would have been a little bit more happy with it. But then it cuts to her in a hospital bed, and I'm assuming she's just a vegetable.
Right.
And the nurse comes in, she's like, oh, the both of you are going to be okay. And like pats her stomach, implying that she's pregnant. So I'm assuming,
little Rosemary's Baby
I'm
type
assuming
deal.
It was the Antichrist
Yeah.
was in her. And then that's really the end of the movie, and the credits just roll. I'm like, nothing happened for like an hour and 15 minutes, and then the last 15 minutes they just try to jam pack all this stuff into it. I'm like, man, it was just.
Which is funny because like that's the movie that like kind of put Ty West like on the map a little bit. That was like his breakout movie. And then he did like stuff with the VHS movies. He did X, that whole trilogy.
Yeah,
Sacrament.
yeah.
There's one that I like called The Innkeepers. Sarah Paxton's in that.
Okay.
And the lead guy from Cheap Thrills is in it too.
Gotcha.
Pat Healy is his name. Also, a little side note. Last week when I was trying to explain Dan Stevens to you in the rental, what I should have said is the guy from Apostle.
Gotcha. Okay, like the main dude.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that should have been the first
Boom,
thing
right there, and then you
I
would have got
exactly.
it. Yeah.
I would have said, "Oh, then let me get the rentals immediately."
Yeah. Well.
Not
now.
I still want it now.
That's okay. That's your decision. Everything is everything, I guess.
You know.
But yeah, no, you said that with House of the Devil. Like, I haven't seen House of the Devil since it originally came out. And, yeah, no, that tracks. It's probably my least favorite of
it was just okay.
bunch.
I thought like the twist just didn't have any payoff. I felt like you just kind of just left it.
Yeah, you're like, and nothing happened. I'm like, oh yeah, that's how I remember that movie. Yeah. So I guess I don't need to revisit
Thank
that.
God it was only an hour and a half. It was 2 hours longer. I would have been more pissed.
Shit, man. Yeah.
But I don't know. So I mean, it was at best okay. It wasn't anything spectacular. And then we get into the Covenant and Romulus movies.
Oh, okay, gotcha. The Alien.
Yeah. Alien Covenant.
I was like, when the fuck did you watch The Covenant? I gotcha.
Alien Covenant, and how are we on time? I can speed through these if
you can speed through them.
Okay, so essentially, it was okay. I had personal gripes with kind of like some of the choices they made with the aliens.
Yeah.
Specifically, like the baby aliens, I felt like were too overpowered for what they should have been.
Yeah.
I thought the android fight was probably one of the best scene, where they're like duking it out, and Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I thought it was kind of silly how they tried to just like wrap up the whole Prometheus thing and just like I don't know. They really built it up just to just write it off. I felt like more than anything, where it's like, oh, we're gonna meet the creators, and then it's like then he just goes and kills all the creators by releasing the alien, whatever the fuck it is, black mist, and it just goes and just kills all of them. And then I don't know. He just had like a complex of wanting to be able to create something because he wasn't programmed to do so. And so I don't know. So and then shit happens, and then the android does what androids do in a lot of these movies, and just kind of fucks everyone over.
Yep.
And then it was over. And so now we're just gonna move on to Romulus. And so I'd say Romulus was probably one of my more favorite of the Alien movies. I thought they did a good job of trying to at least stay true to like the original lore of what like aliens were. And I don't know, I think the story was just better or whatever. I enjoyed Andy, and then I enjoyed him putting in the other android's chip and then turning into Rook, and then kind of just turning into it. So then I got both a good android and bad android, and there is like
we haven't done this one before.
Conflict.
We've never gone 50-50 with an android.
Have they?
No,
they seem very sarcastic. So I just I was like, did I miss something?
Are you an android? Are you not picking up on the sarcasm?
I thought that was the first time they did it. It's usually one or the other, but so I don't know. So I mean, it was cool. Like I think kind of like what you said, like towards the end, like that. The creator-esque alien or whatever, I thought was kind of silly. I thought it was more silly because I am assuming that's what was supposed to be the thing that like the chick gave birth to.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that grew up hella fast.
Yeah.
Because it was a full-grown fucking alien by the time they faced it. I'm like, weird. And so it was just like, I don't know, it's like, and this is what you think the answer for humanity is? Like, these things fucking running around? Like, I don't know.
This seems like chaos.
This doesn't seem like a good outcome for humanity at all. I think they'd rather just die. And so, I don't know. So, I mean, there's obviously little gripes about it, but overall, I could forgive some of those little minor things.
We'll definitely get... I definitely think we should do like a deep dive on the Alien and Predator movies at some point.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely get more into those. I will say, like I told you, I didn't dislike Romulus necessarily. I was more so disappointed than anything. And like, that was just on me and having expectations.
Well, I went into there disappointed, so it was easier for me to be like, oh, well, that's not bad.
But I will say, definitely one of the coolest like moments in it is that the thing they do with like the gravity field later on, but then they like shoot up all those aliens.
So
all the acid is just floating around in the air. That was a cool scene.
And I will say quickly that one thing that I heard people complain about was that scene specifically. They're like, the aliens wouldn't have just all came at them like that, like through the air shaft and. I think they would.
Yeah. Why would they not? And why do you think
that wasn't an issue for
me. Are you an alien? Why the fuck would you know that?
Did you not see Aliens? I'm pretty sure they did the exact same fucking thing in that one.
Pretty sure they hive up, so I don't know.
So, I mean,
that one's pretty consistent.
I disregarded that.
Yeah.
And that was cool to see her kind of like zero gravity around the fucking all the acid and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then like it fucked up the ship.
Which you know what? I'm glad that it did, just because like I feel like it doesn't usually, and it should. You know what I mean? Like,
because they even talked about if don't shoot them because the acid will burn through the ship
entire ship
and will decompress and all die. But like, then why are you giving us the guns? Hopefully to scare them off. Like, we don't really want to shoot them. Right. But I was like, I don't think aliens get intimidated too easily, so I don't think that's going to work out for you.
I have a theory. You just start screaming at one of them. Have a little mouth come out of your mouth. See how that goes. They back down. Clearly, you're the alpha.
Jeez.
But then right before you go to leave, you just give like a little wave, and then you get fucked off by an alien.
Get a little smile.
Fucking.
Jesus. And so, but yeah, I definitely would like to get at least more into like the alien movies because I feel like, for the most part, I've just given very brief descriptions on them without actually getting. Yeah, and
it's just been so long for me on most of them that I don't feel like my reviews will be super valid at this point.
Yeah, I would like to go through and watch them and like take notes and make little like just jot some little stuff down and maybe be able to appreciate the story in its entirety a little bit more now that I've watched them. But who knows? Who knows? I just Interstellar.
Didn't you watch 36 Chambers?
Oh, I did watch 36 Chambers. 36 Chambers of Shaolin, which you talked briefly on last week, and watched it again and still enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I think his determination and perseverance is really commendable. You know, it's like, damn, the dude went through like 7 years.
He said, "Start me at the top,"
and then he's like, "This isn't kung fu." It's like, because you don't understand, you need to. He's like, I'll start at 35.
Yeah, which is what I thought was funny. He didn't say, I'll start from the top, gets humbled, and he's like, okay, I'll start from the bottom and work my way up. He's like, all right, well, what's the next lowest? And I'll start there. Yeah. Yeah, no, still enjoyable. Yeah, not much to add.
No, not much to add. Good story. I did think it was funny. So, like, when the dude's chopping up Lord Zahn or whatever the fuck it is. Like, well, I guess the first time I watched it, I thought the hand turn look away was a little bit quicker than what it actually was. Because it's like, dude's like, I'm not, I'll get you. And dude just kind of watches them get killed at one point, and his face is like, oh, god damn it. He's like, I shouldn't be watching this.
Oh, I am a monk. I cannot see this.
But I thought it was cool that, because even his professor at the beginning was like, says something about doing good deeds, or whatever, and how that was supposed to be like something that you strive to do, or whatever, and like the whole country patriotism and not just letting your oppressors oppress you.
Essentially.
So stuff like that. So there's definitely some cool elements to it.
Yeah. Like I said last week, it's an inspiring movie. I think for sure.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would definitely agree.
I've got one more before we get to our finale.
Right. The big finale.
This one was a request. Somebody requested of me to watch, which was It Ends With Us.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, okay.
Belle insisted that I watch this movie. I was not going to watch this movie, but I did. Because, I don't know, originally when it first came out, I was like, oh yeah, I'll check that out. I don't mind a little love story, and I like Blake Lively and all that jazz, but, anybody that's kept up with it, it's like, there's a lot of drama surrounding this movie, and just, a lot of bullshit, a lot of lawsuits between Blake Lively and the other dude. And so it's just my thing is, I haven't picked a side. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, I like Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, but it also sounds like Blake Lively could be just as bad in this situation. It sounds like she might be a little bit of a bully, and, it's like, I'm not going to pick sides. But regardless of, all of that, I'm watching this movie now through the lens of, so these two people are beefing in real life and accusing each other of all this shit, but I'm supposed to sit here for 2 hours and believe that they're falling in love with one another. It's a tall ask. I'm not gonna lie. It was a bit of a big ask, and I just feel like my opinion on this movie would have been vastly different if I didn't know anything about the lawsuits, if I didn't know anything about what happened in the movie, because I had the whole movie spoiled for me. I asked for it.
Right.
But because I didn't anticipate watching it. Because Belle was like, "Well, if you're not going to watch it, I'll just tell you about it." And then like a week later, she's like, "No, I want you to watch this movie." I'm like, "Well, fuck."
Well,
okay.
why did you tell me?
Yeah. So, but like, like I told her, I was like, it's just not my kind of thing. And I even started thinking about that as far as like when I write romance stories, I do shy away from this version of romance stories because like where I'll give credit to this movie is like this movie does not condone the toxic behavior per se, like, but in a way they do, like these movies always do.
Right.
The whole like the dudes aren't taking no for an answer. They're just like acting a certain type of way that like no respectable woman would ever fucking allow themselves to be treated in such a way. Like I feel that way about like Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey and all these movies where they're like, yeah, isn't this guy sexy? I'm like, no, he's a fucking creep. Like he stalks you and he fucking like again just doesn't take no for an answer and like tells you how you're going to be living your life and like acts like he like owns you. And I'm like, nothing about this is sexy. Not in the slightest. It's like the one thing that women complain about is everything that these men in these romance movies are. Even like that was my problem back in the day with The Notebook. I'm just like the whole thing is like he's not taking no for an answer, and they're like, oh, how sweet. Nah, is it? Because if that happened in real life, you'd be like, he's harassing me because that's what it is. They're fucking harassing you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But they try to sugarcoat it. They try to make it sweet. And like, yeah, I don't know, dude, just watching it through the lens of like all of this, I'm just like not a fan. And I'm just more so a fan of like a romance story where like things are just like a little more natural, I guess. They don't sugarcoat things. They don't try to make toxic things seem like they're sweet and sexy. They're just people falling in love, and more reflective sometimes. That's just like my preferred love story, I guess.
I feel you. And I guess, like, I mean, obviously I'm not a female, so I can't say for sure, but I do feel like it is kind of subjective, like, when it comes to that, because I do feel like there are women out there who do like that kind of, like, situation.
For sure.
And I think it boils down more to who the person than like what the situation is. It's like if it's someone they like, then yeah, they're going to like that more than some creepy dude you work with harassing you. You know what I'm saying? Like I do think, well, I mean, again, not a female, so it's hard for me to say, but I do know that sometimes people say like, oh, I don't like this certain thing, but then like if someone else does it, they're completely fine with it. So there is like, so I don't know. So maybe there are women who do actually find that kind of stuff.
There's like
sexy or sweet or whatever.
Which and yes, they are out there, and I feel like there's a version of this where it's like a dominant submissive sort of thing where it's like there's a healthy version of this, and this is not that. Like I told you, if nobody had told me this was based on a book, I still would have known it was. Like, it just has all of the calling cards of, like, some smutty romance novel that's, like, a big hit amongst women. And it is. So, it just kind of tracked in that front. There are things that, like, I want to talk about regarding this movie, but, like, I don't... Like I said, I want to hear your thoughts on it, not knowing this stuff. Like, I want to know so that when we do talk about it after you've seen it, like, I want to know how it hit for you, not knowing certain things.
Got you. I'll probably watch it by next week. So.
Yeah, because there's definitely some things, like, even like what the whole theme of the movie is, I just can't help but wonder if they missed the mark. And I'm like, I don't know. Again, can't really say much without like spoiling
I'll
it.
watch it. I'll watch it.
I'll
try to watch it with the most unbiased opinion I can to try to objectively give my opinion on the movie. Yeah,
because definitely the whole lawsuit thing just gave me the ick to this guy, like, from frame one. As soon as he showed up, I'm like, ugh. But like same on the other end where I'm like, I'm just watching Blake Lively act like she's in love with this dude she fucking hates, you know what I mean? Like, so I just feel like I'm watching a toxic work environment unfold. Like, they just showed up to work every day and just tolerated one another, but whatever. We just not too long ago went and saw Interstellar.
Yeah, it was like a couple hours ago.
Just a couple hours ago in the old IMAX for a 10th anniversary screening. I'm glad we didn't miss it.
Yeah, I wasn't going to.
I thought we did. Like, I thought it was one of those things where, like, it just didn't come around to our IMAX, but luckily we got one late in the game. I'll take it.
Yeah.
You know? That is the way to see Interstellar.
Oh, yeah. It was the best experience.
Feel that rocket blast in your ass.
Yeah.
In your soul.
And it literally shook my whole body.
Yes. It's like being at a concert. You just, like, feel the bass rumbling inside of you.
It's like, damn.
Excellent movie. Always been both of one of our favorites, you know. And I know I've always had a personal connection to the movie, just on an emotional level and stuff. And we discussed, this is the first time I think we've both watched it since becoming fathers.
Yeah.
And that I felt like also just hit like 10 times harder on those scenes. Kind of similar to the Wolfman. I'm like, this is twice we go to the IMAX this week, and both times I'm crying over the same shit, essentially.
Yeah.
Just fathers and their daughters. And
I remember telling you, like, years ago, I'm like, once you become a parent, like, some of these movies start to, like, that's the same thing with Bird Box for me.
You always said that, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, fuck, like, especially like on like a parent level. Like if you just watched it, then I guess you're like, yeah, it was just okay. But then like there are certain scenes where you're just like,
maybe that's why I never watched it. I was just waiting to become a parent to watch it.
I cried.
That's what she said.
I cried watching it, so I think you would too. But on Interstellar, like it was just like there's so many good moments. Like even one shot I always enjoyed was like when they're first in space, and like they're showing like the thrusters go off and stuff, and it's just silent because they're in space.
Yep.
I'm like, that's just so cool. Like just like a nice little.
And the space, it's breathtaking in the IMAX.
Oh yeah,
it's just breathtaking. Like so many moments, you could just like freeze it and just look at it. You know, it's just beautiful.
It's like, damn. This is really nice.
That scene near the end where when Matt Damon tries to dock to the station and it blows up, and there's just that like wide shot of the debris of the space station, like over on this side of the frame, but on this side it was their ship, and like just the vastness of the planet behind them, and I'm just like, God, what a beautiful shot. Like,
right, yeah.
Even this time around, because I know that like the first time I saw it, and even like a couple viewings after that, I'm like, fuck Matt Damon in this movie, because it was a big surprise the first time.
Oh, the first time I was genuinely shocked. I was like, holy shit.
But I definitely was like, what a fucking asshole that first time. And yes, he's still an asshole, but I felt a lot more sympathy for him this time around, because it's like, I can understand. I hate that it's like all about the mission. Yeah. Or at least that's what he poses it to seem like, oh, we got to finish the mission. But like, if you're isolated, literally, in the middle of an unknown galaxy, people be doing this to Matt Damon a lot. So I'm sure he's just like not okay being left in space so much. But and it's such an interesting movie. I feel like it's always been intriguing to me, like the whole time aspect of it. Like, that was always like a big takeaway for me the first time I saw it. It was, and it's funny because in Thor: Love and Thunder, there's that scene near the beginning where Natalie Portman's like little quantum physics book or whatever, this other dude in chemo is reading it, and she's like, oh, well, I'll explain it to you. And she goes, have you seen Interstellar? And then she fucking proceeds to do the thing from Interstellar.
Yeah.
Where she draws the two lines and hilarious. In hindsight, hilarious. But that's all I could think about watching that scene this time around.
I felt so bad for that dude.
The what was his name? Ron or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. It's always so sad, like when they come back up from that planet, and it's been 23 years, and he's just kind of got his little robot.
Waiting for you guys
for years.
Yeah, and Natalie Portman, not Natalie Portman, fucking Anne Hathaway was just wrong. She was just wrong in that situation.
Yeah.
And got someone killed because of it.
Yeah.
And then, like, I don't know. I could understand why she was being petty towards Matthew McConaughey, like when they had to pick between the two different planets. But she didn't have to, like, no, she threw some low blows.
Yeah, she took that jab about the kids.
Yeah. Like, oh,
see if you're so subjective when the time comes.
Yeah. That's like, bitch, don't be rude.
Yeah.
like you know, he like missed his whole family growing up, and he wasn't there, and now well, I guess it's before she realized that her daughter, like his daughter, like thought he just abandoned her to die, and I was like, oh, it's just so. And I loved there was a big crowd.
Yeah, huge crowd
at the IMAX, and I felt like everyone just was there, obviously, for the love of just Interstellar.
And I'm sure, I would almost go as far to say, if I had to guess, anybody in that theater who hadn't seen it before was there with somebody who had. Yeah. Who was like, oh, you haven't seen, well, then we're going to the IMAX and we're seeing Interstellar.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about this after the movie was over, because we were just talking the other day about crying in a movie theater. And I said something about like, oh, but it's not so bad when like the whole theater's crying together. And that's exactly what happened watching Interstellar. Is just, you know, there were a few moments even like, which I thought was even more impressive. I just feel like that kind of thing doesn't usually happen. And that's why I felt like all of these people were Interstellar fans that were there. Like we all knew what journey we signed up for, and we all just kind of went with it. But like, yeah, when he comes back from that planet and all that time has passed, and
it's always it's always a rough scene.
Oh man, it's hard,
especially the first time, like when they come up and they're like, it's been 23
years,
and then like they do the video calls, like they watch the video log or whatever, and like he's seeing
his face.
Yeah,
and
it sounds like, I don't know why I'm doing this anymore, so I'm just gonna let you go. And he's like, no, I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, and then the daughter being so angry, like never talked to him for like decades. She's like, I thought I had to live with that choice, and I did.
Yeah.
But it's my birthday. I was like, you bitch.
I know. And it's like all these videos are playing, and like I said, like I hear somebody like really start crying behind me. I see the guy in front of me wiping his eyes. I hear you start sniffling. I hear the other guy back in the back who had a lot to say. Oof.
Oof. A lot of sounds coming from
Oof. Yeah. I mean, he was never wrong.
He was never wrong.
But
I was misty-eyed from like, as soon as the movie started. I was fighting back, just bawling the whole time because I'm like, I was like, I know exactly where all this stuff is going. Like before he left, and his daughter's like crying, and he's
that
like,
might be one of the worst for me.
God,
don't let me leave like this, Murph. I'm just like, please don't.
It says stay, knowing that it's him that's trying to tell him to stay. I'm like,
I had that too. Where knowing where this is going almost made it that much sadder.
Getting a little messy. I just talking about it. God damn.
I'm saying, dude,
a beautiful movie.
It really is, and it's like one of those things that like I know that, you know, having seen it before, but it's been 10 years since the last time I saw it. And so to watch it again, it's like I almost forgot just how emotional the movie really is. Like there's so many fantastic moments that are like, you got your spectacle, but then you got all of these emotional moments just peppered through the whole movie, like just almost nonstop. But it's just like, sheesh.
Yeah.
Rough.
Even like with his grandson dying and stuff like that, because they don't, I mean, they bring it up a couple times, but it's like, you just like, it's just sad. It's just like, they don't ever like, it's because of all the dust. He's like,
yeah, you get it.
It's like, our son died.
Yeah. Has the baby, and then like it's like the next video where he's just
and then the sister didn't even make that comment. It's like, are you gonna let another kid die?
Had it been another movie, her brother would have smacked her.
Yeah, You know, punch the dude in the face, and then he grabs the crowbar. He's like, "I'm not getting hit again."
He did too. He's ready to fight.
Yeah, he's like, "All right, the fire's out, Murphy."
Something when Murphy comes out and like has her big like moment where she realizes it's her dad and stuff, and her brother pulls up from like putting the fire out, and she's like, "It was Dad all along," and like gives him the hug.
And
like,
his face is just.
My thing is, I'm like, he doesn't give a fuck right now. You just burned his crops. You're like trying to take his family after he told you no. Like, you said some shit earlier. Like, he doesn't give a fuck. That dude's not coming back in his eyes. Like,
that man's been through some shit.
Yeah.
Good old Casey Affleck, man.
Great cast. A little baby Timmy Chalamet in there.
Yeah.
Probably one of like the first things I ever saw him in, more than likely. I have to say, I am curious to look this up later because I'm sure it won. Well, it might not have won anything at the Oscars, but I feel like it was not nominated for a lot of stuff. Like, I feel like it wasn't nominated for Best Picture. I feel like it wasn't. Matthew McConaughey sure didn't get nominated, which is a damn shame because I'm like watching this like, God, hoping he gets nominated this year for a movie that came out 10 years ago. I'm just like, God damn, what a performance on his part. That was like in the height of the McConaissance back about 10 years or so. Yeah. And
because he like did like the Lincoln Lawyer and stuff like that. Right?
He was still skinny from doing Dallas Buyers Club.
Oh yeah, another good one. Yeah.
Just such an excellent movie.
Oh yeah.
Excellent movie. Definitely. I know we kind of talked about it going into it. It's like, you're like, might be my number one Christopher Nolan movie. Like, yeah, it might be. And then it's like, no, it is. It is. Yeah. I can't even play. Like, he's got, I wouldn't even say he's got a bad movie, really. Like, they're all fucking good. Some weaker than others,
Yeah.
Insomnia is probably my least favorite.
I would say Insomnia.
But it's still like an okay movie, Memento's up there, but yeah, something about Oppenheimer, dude. Like, it was just so, like, for a 3 hour, that was like my gauge for it. I'm like, this movie's 3 hours long. It's like a true story, all this stuff, and like, yeah, I'll watch it and be like, you want to watch it again? It's just like, it's just such a weirdly rewatchable movie for me.
No, I watched it once.
Yeah, I watched it twice. Almost just like I just almost kept watching it that week. I was just like really into it for whatever reason. It was doing it for me. But yeah, Christopher Nolan. I can't wait to. Loves working with Anne Hathaway. I was like, because he's getting ready to work with Anne Hathaway on his next movie too. I'm like, I think that's like the third time they've worked together because she's also in The Dark Knight Rises. Yeah. That's
Catwoman.
Dark Knight's up there too, for sure.
Dark Knight.
I mean, that's a fucking classic in and of itself. But yeah, Interstellar. If you had got the chance to see it in the IMAX, see it in the IMAX.
Yeah, you might have to wait 10 more years.
You might, but it'll be worth it. Time is relative, though. So
yeah,
who knows? By the time you watch that movie, we might be the same age. Who knows?
Funny.
What's funny is that it could be the case, from if somebody's listening to this specific episode.
Yeah. True, yeah, it's true. It's so
time. But on that little mind melter, I guess we'll wrap it up. I know by the time we get back to things next week, the Oscar nominations will have come out. So I'm sure we'll start picking away at those as soon as those drop.
Yeah, that's definitely the plan for me at least.
And I personally want to get in at least one David Lynch movie.
Yeah, I have one picked out. So
I'm still deciding which one. I might end up going on Bender. Who knows?
You might. I plan on at least watching two. I'm at least because I have The Lost Highway.
Yeah.
At my disposal right now, and I do plan on watching the OG Dune.
Yeah.
Those are two that I'll watch. I don't know. I'll see if. Damn. I'll see if I can get some other recommendations. I might look to see like people's like top David Lynch films. And
because I know as far as his filmography goes, he doesn't have a lot of movies. He's done a lot of like little short films and just like experimental little like videos and stuff.
I know Twin Peaks was probably the one thing that I knew that
Yeah.
that I recognized. I guess never watched it, but
I mean, I accidentally started watching it at one point a couple years ago. It was on like Pluto TV, and it was like the revival series. And it was one of those shows that I didn't know what I was watching at first, and it's such like a vibe. There's a reason that like they refer to movies as Lynchian, as like a adjective sometimes, you know, and having not seen more of his stuff, I can't really attest to this, but I get the impression that it's like his movies are very like dreamlike. There's just always this sense of something just feels a little off sometimes, you know, and just the way he does things. But I was hooked with Twin Peaks. I was like, I
heard it was a good series.
I need to watch it, like actually watch it, because
So
from what I
maybe
saw,
we'll go on a Twin Peaks little.
I could binge through Twin Peaks.
Deep dive.
I've loaned it from the library like at least like 2 or 3 times, and just never had the time to sit down.
Because like how many
watch
seasons is it?
Well, they did. I think the original series was like 2, and then they did like a little revival series of like, it was like a season in like 2017 that like also got like rave reviews, which is what I saw part of.
Got you.
And then there's also a movie called Fire Walk with Me, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me.
Okay.
That's on Max.
So it shouldn't be too bad to do a little dive into that then.
Nah.
So yeah, check that out.
Yeah. R.I.P. David Lynch. He was, I mean, even having not really seen his work, there's no denying that he was a huge influence on film in general. So.
Yeah, so.
Until next week.
Until next week, you guys.
Peace.
Later.